Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I think the most magical part of an apology with a child is just their absolute 100% forgiveness. They have a capacity to forgive like no one else.
Yeah.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
Today's podcast, we're going to share 5 phrases that will help to transform your relationship with your child. 5 phrases that will help to transform your relationship with your child. In fact, I just thought of a 6th one. So I'm going to make it 6. That's the podcast as of today, Kylie, because I've just come up with a 6th one. Things that we can say to our kids when things aren't quite right, when things are looking a little bit rough, a little bit rugged, a little bit down, a bit like they are today. For Kylie and for me. So let's dive into it. Should we just do it? The things that we say in the Coulson household all the time. You just wrote it down and showed it to me, the one that I just thought of. So why don't we start right there, and you can have the glory. You can have the honour that comes with coming up with this one.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Apologising. I am sorry.
Yeah. Why would you say that transforms the relationship with your kids?
Because it helps our children to recognise that we get it wrong.
Yeah.
When they're young, they think that we have the answers to everything.
Yeah.
They soon work it out that we don't. But in our efforts to help them be better people, they constantly feel like they're the only ones doing it wrong.
Yeah. They
And
feel
so-
incompetent all the time.
Yeah.
And we make them feel worse about it.
And so I think it's so powerful as the adult in the relationship to admit when you do things wrong.
So I've written an article that we will link to in the show notes about how to give a good apology. There are 4 steps to a good apology, and I think it's really important. I want to pick up on something else that you just said though, Kylie. And when our older kids were growing up, the first couple of kids we had, when they were little, I used to have this phrase that I said to the kids all the time. They would look at me in wonder and say, "How do you know?" Because I seemed to know everything to them. And I used to actually say that, well, because I know everything. And I thought it was really fun and really cute, and I just delighted in saying I know everything. But after I'd been doing that for a number of years, I discovered, or I realised, recognised, thought about it, and figured it's not a great lesson to teach the kids. Number one, they're going to figure out one day that I don't know everything, and that's going to be a horrible day for us all. But more to the point, what am I teaching them about themselves other than that they are inferior compared to the one who knows all? I just felt like it was setting them up for failure as much as it was setting me up for failure. And so I stopped saying I know everything. I don't want the kids to think that I know everything. I want them to see the joy that comes from figuring things out.
Well, once they work out that you don't know everything, their teachers do.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I hate it when the teachers apparently know more than me, especially about things that I'm well qualified in. Anyway, I'm sorry is a phrase that will transform your relationship, and it just feels good. Let's be honest. I mean, I know no parent really wants to have to apologise to their kids, but it feels really good when you sit down with your kiddo and you say, "I'm sorry, I got it wrong, I didn't know, I this or that." It draws them closer to you. It draws you closer together.
I think the most magical part of an apology with a child is just their absolute 100% forgiveness. They have a capacity to forgive like no one else.
Yeah.
And it is so beautiful to see it given.
I'm going to say humbling, because we make so many messes. We make such a mess of it.
Yeah, it's just, that's a really good word. It's really humbling when you know you've just stuffed it up so badly, and you see the look in their eyes and you feel their love and know that it's going to be okay.
So here's the second phrase that I think can help you to transform your relationship with your child. We spend so much time telling them what to do. And what I have found and practiced, and you've seen this happen, especially during the mornings in our home, is there's a question that I ask the kids. It's a phrase that I use all the time as they're getting ready in the morning to change the way this happens. And I'm going to potentially embarrass myself here and put us both on the spot. What phrase do you think that I'm referring to?
Oh, it would be, how can I help?
Oh, thank goodness for that. I've actually said it and been heard. I was worried that you were going to look at me blankly and say, I don't know, you don't talk in the mornings. Yeah, how can I help? Instead of correction and direction, the question, how can I help, shows the kids that, hey, I'm on your side and I'm here to connect with you and guide you and work with you rather than just tell you what to do all the time. And I believe that it transforms the relationship.
You do it with me all the time as well. And it's so wonderful to recognize that you can see that that what's happening right now is difficult, but you're not presuming to understand or know what it is that I need.
That's the critical thing here. As parents, we often think we do know what's going on. We feel like we understand and we know what needs to be done to fix it, but it does our children no good for us to make it all better. The benefit, the growth, the development for our children comes as they figure out the answers with our gentle support. As we say, how can I help? Or where to from here? Or what's next? Or what do you need? That shifts. Do you know what it actually does? When I do it to you, when I do it to the kids, it doesn't matter. What it does is it shifts the focus, the sense of self-efficacy. It's about you doing it, not me doing it. It's an empowering thing to say.
Yeah. Well, the thought that came to my mind is it allows me to have a voice.
Right.
You're not presuming that what I actually need in this moment is blah, blah, blah. You're actually recognizing that you don't see it all. You don't know it all. And while you think that, making my lunch is what I need, what I actually need is you to help me find my socks.
Right. Yeah. How can I help? I love it. The third one, just before we take a quick break, this one's a really short one. It's one that I picked up from my mum when I was a kid. Mum used to say this to me all the time. I would say that it transformed our relationship in a kind of a negative way initially, but as I've gotten older, I've seen the wisdom in it and it transformed me as well. Do you know what my mum used to always say that drove me crazy that we now say to our children constantly?
There's a few.
Right. Well, this one's in particular, especially when the kids are whinging and whining and saying, I can't do it.
Oh, can't means don't want to.
Yeah, can't means don't want to. Hated it when mum said that to me. The kids hate it when we say it to them, but there's nothing truer than can't means don't want to. Because the reality is when the kids are whinging and whining, saying, I can't do it, I can't, it's too hard. When we give them a little bit of gentle, compassionate, but clear, tough love, hey kiddo, can't means don't want to. You can. And then we step into that other situation. So how can I help? What do you need? Let's work on this together. Can't means don't want to is, again, it's not a shutdown. It's actually empowering if you say it the right way. And it doesn't just transform your relationship and empower your kids, but it transforms your kids. So they're the first 3 of our 6 phrases that will help you transform your relationship with your child. I'm sorry, how can I help? And can't means don't want to. After the break, my favourite 3. You've asked politely, you've asked again, you've patiently waited, you've even made a threat, but finally, you lose it. Listen to me, you shout. In the practical webinar, The Screaming Spiral, you'll learn the top reasons why your child isn't listening, and you'll get pro tips and strategies to get them to hear without yelling. Available on the Happy Families webshop now.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now. Am I smiling or not?
We are transforming our relationships with our children. What do you mean? Are you smiling or not? What did I miss? I'm so focused on helping people make their families happier in a time-poor, solution-oriented way. Yes.
Last week we talked about the fact that if you just fake smile, you could tell. And you did your whole thing. Am I smiling or not smiling?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And you weren't looking at me, so I was wondering, was I smiling when I said the tagline or not?
You're smiling now. I can tell that. I mean, I'm looking at you, but I could tell even with my eyes closed that you're smiling because it makes you feel happy, doesn't it? We're talking about ways that we can transform our relationship with our kids by just uttering, memorizing, practicing specific phrases. We would love to know your phrases, by the way. Send us a voice memo, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. All you have to do is open up your phone, go into voice memos. It can be a 10-second message or less. Just say, hey, Justin and Kylie, here's the phrase that I use all the time that transforms my relationship with my child, and then let us know what that phrase is. I think that we should do a follow-up podcast with everybody else's phrases. Can you send that through a voice memo to podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au? We'd be stoked to hear from you. Phrase number 4. This is one of my favourite ones. Don't use it often, but I use it in times where it really counts. So the kids are having a hard time. Maybe they've blown it. They've done the wrong thing. And I love to say to them, you matter to me much more than this matters to me. You matter to me much more than this matters to me. It's kind of a follow-on from that idea that we've shared on the podcast before, that people matter, things don't. So when the kids have blown it, when everything's going wrong, when emotions are hostile and hot and everyone's in a tiz, I just like to pull it back and say, do you know what? This relationship is far more important than the issue. We'll deal with the issue later. Let's just focus on the relationship right now. Can we be in a good place together in this relationship? I've said it to you. Said it to the kids, and it's a really important, I think, reset to help us to focus on what matters most. Because the stuff that we're all fighting about and worried about and dealing with, it'll go away. Eventually, we'll work through it. The relationship has to endure, and so the relationship has to come first.
I love it. Number 5.
Okay, the 5th one is related to my idea that you've got to love the hills. So if you're new to the podcast, you might not know this, but I love cycling. I've been riding bicycles for a long time, and I love to jump on my bike and go for long rides, especially up big hills. But a lot of people don't like hills. A lot of people cry and complain and whinge and moan about hills because riding up hills is hard. But when you ride up hills, you grow, you develop, you're strengthened, you become a stronger cyclist. And the view at the top, when you get through that hard thing, it's always worth it. And so what I love to say to the kids is you got to love the hills, but I always add to it, I believe in you. You've got this. It's that sense of I believe in you. You've got this. You can do this. You got to love the hills. The hills make you strong.
I think that's one that the kids probably hate more than they love, but hopefully in time they'll recognise, just like you have with your mums.
Can't means don't want to.
They'll recognise and see just how powerful that is.
Yeah, yeah. And the last one, no surprises.
I love you.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be said all the time, but the times where it is the most impactful are the times where we add those 3 special words on the end.
No matter what.
Yeah, yeah. And saying I love you no matter what, particularly at times where it feels like a child is particularly unlovable, which is most days in most families from time. Do you know what I mean? Like the kids can kind of drive you crazy. When we sit down with them, especially after a challenge, and we say, kiddo, you know that I love you, but I need you to know I love you no matter what. There's just something powerful. There's something unconditional. The acceptance that comes along with that is incredibly powerful.
I think the power actually comes, as much as it's for the child, I think it's actually for us. It's a connection with our hearts in a time where it's very easy to want to withdraw and kind of shun when the challenges are hard. It's a reminder for us to connect.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah, I love that. Now, we've got these 6 phrases that will help you to transform your relationship with your child. Perhaps you've got others that you think we should know about. Please send them to us via a voice memo, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. We would be delighted to hear from you. I want to make one more point before we wrap up the pod today, Kylie, and it's that a lot of people might be going, oh, yeah, I can't remember them all. There's too many. How am I supposed to know how to say it? Why are those words important? I just want to emphasize it's not actually what you say. It's how you convey your feelings to your kids. It's that you say something and that you say it with warmth and compassion and understanding, forgiveness, whatever it needs to be. It's not so much the specific words that you say. You don't have to get the phrase right. You can be clumsy all over those words. But what's the intent behind what you're saying and are your kids feeling it? That matters. That's what transforms the relationship even more than the words.
Totally. You might have a word snickerdoodles.
Right. And snickerdoodles just says something in your family.
In our house, it's not even a word, it's an action. And the kids can see me from afar. And if I do this action, I just wiggle my ear actually with my hand. They know that it means I love them.
I don't think I've ever seen you do that.
Really?
Really? You wiggle your ear?
Well, I hold my ear.
Yeah.
And I just wiggle it with my hand. Kids used to do it with me when they were on the diving blocks for swimming carnivals. They hated getting up on those diving blocks. And I would stand at the other end of the pool and they'd look at me and I'd give them a little wiggle and they just knew that I loved them and that I was there for them.
That's kind of like I've got this thing with them where I squeeze them 3 times. If you get 3 squeezes, that means I love you.
Yeah. Love it.
So it's about the words, but it's also about the intent behind the words. We really hope that these ideas will help you to transform your relationship with your children. We'd love to know what you do to transform your relationship with your children. Send us a voice memo, podcasts@happyfamilies.com.au. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And if you'd like more info about making your family happier, you can visit us at happyfamilies.com.au. Tomorrow on the podcast, we're talking about the habits of healthy relationships.